Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Finance and Public Services Overview and Scrutiny Panel. Straight in with this, this meeting is being recorded rather than live streamed, and it will be published on the Council's YouTube channel in due course. Item 1 of the agenda, I see we've got people here not councillors, so we go through the evacuation procedure. Fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and do not use the lifts. Once out of the building, please gather outside the Lloyd's Bank on the opposite side of the road. Exit by the door by which you entered the room or by the fire exits, which are clearly marked. If you need any assistance in evacuating the building, please make yourself known to a member of staff. Can I ask that mobile phones are turned off or to silent for the duration of the meeting, please? Okay. Item 2, apologies. I've had no notification of any apologies. Any apologies under? No. Okay, thank you. Right. Item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Am I okay to sign the minutes of the previous meeting, Councillor Condacor?
Thank you, Chair. On the minutes, it says we were going to get a written response from Councillor Croft, and that never happened. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that, because it says a response will be provided to members, and I've chased it many times, and it never happened.
Councillor, can you just point out which particular paragraph this is at, and we can check it?
It's a bit at the bottom of page 5, which says questions to members. Councillor Markham was obviously here, and then it mentions that Councillor Croft was unable to attend the meeting, and it was agreed that the questions would be forwarded to him with requests for written responses, which would be shared with members. So that hasn't happened.
Councillor Croft, do you have anything to say on this?
No, Mr. Chairman, he's welcome to ask his question again tonight if he likes, but it wasn't agreed with me that I'd send a written response.
Subject to that, okay to sign the minutes? Thank you. So moving on to declarations of interest. Does any member have any declaration to make that's not in the printed schedule? Thank you. Item 5 is public consultation. Mr. Margrave, I believe you're going to speak as an introduction to item 7, is that correct? Thank you. Okay, item 6 then is questions to members of Cabinet. I see we have both portfolio holders here. Any questions for the members of the Cabinet? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you, Chair. Can I start with Councillor Croft and ask about the financial arrangements for opening the hotel? I was fortunate enough to have a tour of the hotel yesterday, and understand it around August next year it will open. But I believe that will be a council-owned company that will own the running of the hotel. So if Councillor Croft could explain how that will be financed, and if we need revenue funding to actually to effectively lend to the operating company, and also if it gives an indication of the final cost that will be down for the hotel, because if you look in the paperwork, we only see the in-year capital programme, and obviously there's bits before this year, and there'll be bits into next year. So if you could give us an idea of the total cost of the hotel. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Croft, do you want to answer?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've got to be careful what I say here, because I'm not entirely sure what can be put in the public domain in terms of the arrangements with the hotel operator, in terms of the deal that we have with them. I'm going to defer the answer to that, because at the moment as I've advised him, what we're doing is we're looking into the payback and the capital cost to the council in terms of the Grayson Place development, and indeed all of the developments that are coming. that are being built as part of the regeneration programme for the borough. So I don't want to give him a direct figure yet because we've got to rework the numbers. And if I sort of put that in the public domain at the moment, then we'll potentially give him an inaccurate cost because market conditions have changed since 2019-20 when these figures were first finalised when we established the projects, and given that the council takes a very long time to adapt to realities, which is something we're working to change, we've finally got into a position where we can re-open the programme. So I think I'll defer the answer and we'll give him a written response we'll give him a response when we publish the revised programme in December at the December Cabinet.
Councillor Condicle?
Thank you. Rather than an exact figure, though, it would be useful to know the mechanism, because a near identical hotel in Stockton, which was also a Hamilton by Hilton, there was a firm formed by the council, which has obviously lent some money and then does all the setup, and then all the running of the hotel is through the arm length company. So can you confirm that that's the sort of arrangement we are going to do, and it will need some form of funding, even if you don't know the figures?
Councillor Croft?
The arrangement is that Hampton by Hilton run the hotel on our behalf, and we pay them a fee we pay them a fixed fee and a fee as percentage of profit. So like I said, I don't want to go into more detail than that, but the council will not be running the hotel. No, that won't be the position.
Councillor Condicle?
Can I come back now to the question I asked last time about the Bridge to Living project, which is delayed maybe a year or so, and the council's spent about 2 million buying up properties and relocating firms. What is the revenue we're going to have to fund to actually effectively mothball that prior to the redevelopment?
So in terms of the sort of NNDR cost and the costs of the units that have been purchased, the Bridge Street unit will be about £45,000 in this financial year, and £11,000 for the Church Road units within the financial year due to exemptions. We've already factored that in to the general fund projected outturn report that we saw at Cabinet last week or the week before. Because we've been very, very prudent in terms of our budgeting for NNDR, and we've built in a lot of fiscal stabilisers to this year's budget, we're capable of absorbing that. As I say, and I will repeat ad nauseum because I'm not going to make a projection until the work has been done, what will happen with the Bridge to Living project and what will happen to those assets will have to wait until we have published a revised capital programme and regeneration plan, which, like I say, is scheduled for the December Cabinet. We should certainly have the workings done by December.
Councillor Condicle?
Thanks for those answers, but also myself and the leader of the Labour group will have to start producing a budget. Is there going to be some officer time for the opposition groups to actually get the information we need to produce a viable budget and the figures for all the various projects that you'll leave us with if we end up running the council after May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The opposition are always provided with exactly the same support that was given to the Conservative group when we were in opposition. Now, obviously, that will depend on when the draft budget is published. I envisage it will not be this side of Christmas because we've had the additional workload on the regeneration programme and the delays we've had through our audit partners. But when those figures are available, he and the leader of the opposition will have exactly the same support that we had, and that does not involve huge amounts of officer time to create policy, although he is welcome to develop his own policy and ask officers to see if they're viable and workable.
Councillor Condicle?
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Markham 2 questions now, both fairly short? A lot of residents keep talking on social media about the caddies that have all scattered around the borough, and at night we've now got black caddies left on pavements all over the place getting blown around. Can we have an update on when they're going to be cleared away and what comms we've got, particularly like, do people need to leave them out over the weekend? Are we collecting there? Because they are quite a hazard, and particularly in the high winds, that they're going all over the place. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. They are being collected as soon as possible. The reason that there's a delay in the collection is because they're actually being more presented than we expected. We expected some people to keep them, but everybody seems to want to get rid of them. They need to be left out because we are going out, we're even going out on Saturdays to pick up. So it would be helpful if the residents can stack them, if they've got one with their neighbours, maybe put them together. That stops them blowing around a bit, because I know that they are blowing around. We are going to be extending the collection period as well, and that will be going out on Facebook, social media, and also in the press. So if they can just leave them presented, they will be collected.
Second question, Councillor Connor.
Yeah, thanks for that answer. It would be useful for our social media to tell people to stack them, because that has stopped them blowing around. My final question is about the Civic Hall bidding process. I obviously don't want any confidential information in terms of values of bid, but can you tell us how many bidders there were and when you're expecting to effectively reach a legal closure? Thank you.
Yeah, there were only the 2 bidders, the 2 that put in for the expressions of interest. Obviously, one of those was put forward, and we're just waiting for the lease to be signed. I can't tell you when that will be, but that's with legal at the moment.
Any further questions for members of the Cabinet? Thank you. In which case we can move on to item number 7, the work programme suggestion form submitted by Mr. Margrave. Before I give you a chance to speak, Mr. Margrave, your 3 minutes, just want to remind members that tonight the purpose of this is to decide whether or not to put the matter onto the work programme. We're not here to debate the merits or otherwise of the work programme suggestion itself. It's just to put whether or not we put it on the work programme. With that, Mr. Margrave, over to you for your 3 minutes introduction. Thank you. Can I just stop you there, Mr. Margrave? It doesn't appear that your microphone is on. Is the light on? No. Try the one next to you. There, it's on. It came on. There, it's on.
Shall I start again?
That's fine. If you wish to start again, that's fine.
Sorry, apologies. Thank you, Chair. I'm here on behalf of the campaign for a Bedworth Town Council. I hope you will put people before politics today and seriously consider the opportunity of exploring a town council for Bedworth. Wild claims are often made about the cost of a town council, including using examples of councils that have large buildings or overheads, which Bedworth won't. And it's said by those who are worried about possibly losing power. It's another layer of politicians or won't be any benefit, both which are not true, as we see from the west of Warwickshire, where every area has a town council. I asked the OSP to fact-find and recommend a town council inviting evidence from the likes of Warwickshire and West Midlands Association of Local Councils, experts like Professor Colin Copus or others, representatives of other town councils who were set up since 2000 to see the difference they can make, and also maybe the county who do a lot of work with town councils. They will show you that town councils save money and can deliver for their local community in a way a district or county can't. They don't cost much more to run and councillors aren't paid. I've argued for a town council for well over 20 years, working on my PhD, reinforce the benefit of town councils. They tackle a number of problems, because red or blue, you have to follow a whip, and the whip is always going to be decided by a majority of Nuneaton representatives at MBBC. So you may believe in Bedworth, but you can't fight properly for the town or put it first. Bedworth isn't currently getting its fair share of resources, the museum, toilets, offices, the council, all in Nuneaton. And you won't hold meetings in Bedworth either. So the impact is clear on democracy, the community and economic ecosystem. But localism could change that, and it can also stimulate levelling up. A town council or an area committee could empower Bedworth councillors to fix that. Each give much needed oversight to transforming Bedworth too and stop some of the mistakes of the past, such as the borough plan or loss of shops and services in the town. To make spending fair, I'm also asking you to consider whether the council could develop a formula and give a grant to the town to be spent via a town council or the local community and businesses on and in Bedworth. These are ideas worth looking at. It isn't an attack. It's about recognising Bedworth has missed out, and the town that never forgets has too often been forgotten. You can address that with a town council, and I would urge you to take the opportunity to at least look at it. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Margaret, if you'd like to turn your microphone off, then we can continue. Thank you. Does any member have any questions or points of clarification for Mr. Margrave? Councillor Hammersley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to correct Mr. Margrave about this gang-up attitude with Nuneaton and Bedworth councillors. There is no ganging up or biased decisions from any Nuneaton councillors. We are united as one in all our decisions. And just another correction farther round about the saving hundreds of thousands of pounds in the cost of elected members' allowances. Now, Mr. Margrave should know that this is not correct, because, as Mr. Margrave knows, when he accepted his allowances when he was a councillor, that is nowhere near that figure. Thank you, Chair.
Any further question? Councillor Downs.
Thanks, Chair. Evening, Sam. Right, couple of questions for you. Do you live in Bedworth? Well,
I'm a local lad and I grew up in Bedworth, and my family are all there, and I volunteer with community groups. I'm answering the question, Chair, if I might do. And I do a lot of work in the town, and I'm always often there. It's my home, and it's in my heart. And I have looked at moving back to Bedworth. I'm there a lot. Unfortunately, I've been beaten by landlords that are quick to offer rising prices and increasing interest rates. Now, living 2 miles away from the border does not mean I won't stop caring about Bedworth, a town that I grew up in, that I spend a lot of time in, that I give a lot of time to, and that I've represented. It's not about politics. I've continued to raise this for decades. Labour wouldn't listen. I hope the Conservatives might change things. That's what I voted for. So I don't really know the question isn't relevant to the point I'm making. Whether somebody lives in Bedworth or not, it's about the best for Bedworth, and I'd like to see a town council. As an academic who has worked in local government, that's my point.
You asked a simple yes or no question. I allowed you to speak and give a reason, but I think the answer's quite clear there. Councillor Downs, did you have any further points?
Please. Okay, thank you. Right, I'll ask these in quick succession, so hopefully Mr. Margrave will be able to answer them himself after. So, my next question, will Mr. Margrave be paying towards this new town council, being that he is not at the moment a resident in Bedworth? Next question. I'd like to know where he gets his figures from, because they're pie in the sky figures. Because, I mean, I've got family that live in Leamington, I've got family that live in Warwick. They pay way more than what is quoted in his figures. Thirdly, why does he wish to burden the people of Bedworth with an extra layer of bureaucracy and cost? Okay. And what makes him think that NBBC are going to give Bedworth Town Council grants? They've just about got enough money to sort themselves out. So where does he get the grants from? That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Margrave, there was a couple of points there. Perhaps you can give an answer.
Thank you, Chair.
A succinct answer would be useful.
Yeah, so try and take all those questions. First of all, where do I get my evidence from? Or the things that I'm putting forward? Well, as an academic and as somebody who spent a lot of time researching this, everything I've said is evidenced. Everything is factual. There's nothing pie in the sky. I think that, I personally think that a grant model, which is something other areas have adopted, would work better. And so I think that, you know, I've kind of outlined why I think the rest of Warwickshire have a town council. Why would you want to deprive and stop Bedworth having a town council when every other area in Warwickshire has one and it's benefiting from it? It doesn't seem fair to me.
Thank you, Mr Margrave. Any members got any more points? Councillor Baxter Payne, then Councillor Harbison.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to come back to something that's just been mentioned. In this work programme suggestion, we're being asked to review a nil and therefore at no extra cost to the taxpayers of Bedworth, a town council. That is listed in number 2 of the desired outcome of the review. Yet I'm reading a paragraph here that says, therefore, a precept in Bedworth is more likely to be around £10 to £15 per head. So there will be a precept to the residents of Bedworth, and there'll also be a precept to the residents of the borough, the whole borough. Because if the council is to issue a grant to Bedworth Town Council, then there will be a cost to it, and it will go across the whole of the borough. So I'm a bit confused as to whether it's a nil precept or a £10 to £15 per household precept.
Mr Margrave, there's clearly a thing, but we're not here to debate that. I mean, the members have just raised a fairly valid point. Councillor Harbison.
Thank you, Chair. As a small government libertarian, it tickles me pink, the idea of less government. It genuinely does. Any other time, I would be completely on your side. However, bearing in mind that we sat on Wednesday to decide to pass through the ideas for the new boundary changes, the various things that are going on, there's a very good chance there'll be a general election next year. In principle, I absolutely support what you're saying, Sam, 100%. However, it's right idea, wrong time for me, which is why I can't support it. And it's not, bring it back when things have settled down, and there's a good chance I'll support it. But at this point, I just can't. So it's more of an opinion than a question, and that's the only reason. But like I say, good idea, wrong time. Just one man's view. Thank you, Chair.
Just one quick question, Chair, and I'm not sure if the officers in the room will be able to answer this tonight, but how long would this review take? And how many hours of officer time would be taken up conducting this review that we're being asked to put forward into the work suggestion?
Would you like to answer that, Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So if the council were to elect to undertake a community governance review, so the full gamut of let's review the governance arrangements, they can take 12 to 18 months depending on the scale of them. One of the questions that council would need to consider is whether it wanted to just review the governance arrangements for Bedworth, or whether it wanted to look wholesale across the patch. Because, you know, I think a lot of areas often, if they're being looked at, can we be looked at as well? That would change the scale of the review. If a petition were to come forward, which is one of the suggestions that may happen, we have 12 months in order to do the review. So we can't make it longer. I can't really speak to officer time. It depends on the scale of the review and what we're being asked to look at, and that's a decision for council. That's okay.
Thank you. Councillor Condacall. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very concerned about the timing of this because, as you obviously know, you've won the bid to run Bedworth Civic Hall potentially, and you're currently the chair of the CIC. So I can't understand how you got the bandwidth to do both a town council and mobilise to try and raise funds to do the Civic Hall work. So would you agree it would be better to park the town council for a year and get one thing running first, or do you really believe you can do all this at the same time?
Sorry, just one sec, because I never got to answer the question earlier on.
if you want to answer Councillor Condacor's question, feel free.
Yep. I never got to answer the question of Councillor Baxter Payne, but first of all, my understanding about this evening, as you clarified to councillors this evening and to me, was that this was about councillors having the opportunity to look at it, and that would save the council money and time of not having to do a petition. And you could get evidence, you get people in to ask them questions, experts, and the whole point is that you haven't got very much on the agenda tonight. And I was just thinking, as councillors, you could maybe look at, would this be something that could benefit Bedworth? Because it benefits the rest of Warwickshire. And I know that some of you have been out supporting councillors or people standing for election to town councils elsewhere in the county, or your parties at least do. So why shouldn't Bedworth have a town council? So I was simply asking for the OSP to look at the evidence and to bring back some kind of report to then consider it. Now, as for waiting a year, it was 2 years ago that I suggested, and then prior to that many years, and you, councillor, promised in, I think, 2010 a town council or parish council for Weddington, and that never materialised. So I think it's well time that this council considered it. Now, I'd only want them to consider on a very small amount.
I think you've answered the question now.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Condacor, you've got another question.
Can I ask the officers a question now? Can we move on to...
No, it was questions for in response to the statement, but if you have a question for Martin, feel free.
Yeah, I'd clearly am a supporter of localising government down, but obviously that involves also reducing the size of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, because where we have parish councils, they do things like graveyards and parks, and they have their own little civic functions and things. So effectively, it's not just creating a new thing, it's actually moving some things from a borough council to be Hartsell Parish Council, whether they do play areas and everything. But we'd have to do it all to be logistically right. We can't have different parts having parish councils and different parts being run by the borough. So there's talk of a big rework of local government. Yeah, changing the county council, maybe going to unitary, 2 unitaries. Where are we with all that stuff? And does that bring us the parish and town councils? Yeah, well, is that a better way? Because if it's going to take us 18 months and the county is looking at local government organisation across Warwickshire, isn't it better to A, wait for that process, and B, in any process, can we make sure we don't do a process for Bedworth, we do a process for Bedworth, Bulkington, Nuneaton, yeah. So those are 2 areas I need some clarification.
Martin, just feel free to answer the part that you can comfortably answer.
I was just going to say, the local government reorganisation at the macro scale, that's outside my pay grade. But you do raise an interesting point, which is around this maximum of finance following function. So were the council to decide to grant Bedworth Town Council, if it were created, a certain amount of things, the functions would need to follow it. And the idea being then that this council stops doing some things, delegates functions to a parish council instead, the finance would follow that. That's one of the important things to consider here, is not just create it and then it costs money, but what local government functions it would undertake. They are very different across different parishes. And we do have a situation where we do have parished and unparished areas in other parts of the county. So it's possible to have just Bedworth having its own town council with its own functions. You wouldn't have to have the similar setup in Nuneaton, for example, as well. I think that's part of your question.
Councillor Condacor.
Yeah, I think my question is, if we get asked to do a review, do we automatically do a review for parishing and town council in the whole borough? Because obviously Bulkington's very cut off. It's even more in need of its own thing. And Nuneaton would ideally have the same mirrored what Bedworth had.
So, no, we don't have to do the whole area. If we were to receive a petition, we would just respond to the petition, but we could take the opportunity to look wider. You know, if we're going to do this, let's look wider. But no, we don't have to do a review for other areas that it hasn't been requested for. So we could just look at Bedworth, just sort that out. And if other areas, other areas would then probably oh, can we have one as well then? And you end up doing 3 reviews in sequence then, rather than one larger one, which might be more efficient, I suppose.
Thank you. Any further questions or observations? Which case I have a couple of points, because I appreciate the work that's gone into this from Mr. Margrave and the passion with which he has brought it forward. But I did a quick check on Kersley Parish Council, because my own ward includes part of Kersley, another part of it's within Coventry, and that Coventry part has a parish council. And the average cost to the houses within Coventry that fall within Kersley is £50 per year. And that parish council has a total budget of £11,000 or £11,500 a year, of which more than 50% goes on its parish clerk, PAYE, hire of a building to hold meetings, and mandatory council's insurance in case if somebody says something that they shouldn't. So I understand that you're going for a grant, you want it to be grant funded, but there's nothing in here about who would pay for the admin of dealing with the grant funding, and whether the grant would be fully funded by Bedworth council taxpayers or across the borough, which I suspect it would be across the borough. And that's where we get the calls for other places. Now, I do have a lot of sympathy with this, so I'm just going to put it to the vote and see what members think. Right? So I would say all of those who are in favour of Councillor Condacott.
Can I, before we go to a vote, because it might have any thingy, can we vote to do something after the next election, i.e. Because obviously it's going to be a long process anyway, and it doesn't make sense 5 months before...
Councillor, we have a work programme suggestion here before us to add it to the work programme. It's as simple as that. It's not a, can we add it in 6 months' time, so, or in the next municipal year. Councillor Bax.
I was just going to say, I think this is just a simple choice. Do we or don't we? Is it of benefit or isn't it of benefit? That is the choice we're being asked to make, because if we vote to put this into the work programme suggestion, all of that officer time that we've just discussed in here will come to light at some point, because it will have to be looked at. And as an OSP, I don't think this can be looked at as an OSP without officer input, because there's some serious legal questions in here that will need answering as part of any review. Because, as we've already discussed, what level do we delegate services? What level do we go to? What's the implications of doing that? So this isn't something that I think an OSP or a working party without officer input can sit down and look at. So to me, this is a simple choice of, is it something of benefit or isn't it something of benefit?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you. This ain't really a question. This is just food for thought, really. It's there would be a hell of a lot of things to think about thinking about this. So you'd have to get the Parks Department, for instance, to divide up how much you spent on miners' welfare compared to how much you spent on Riversley Park, how much you spent on different parks in Bedworth, and how much you spent on different parks. So you'd have to have the Parks Department. You'd have to have just about every department within the council looking at something. It'd be a massive piece of work to do. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, really, is this wouldn't be a quick win. This wouldn't be something you'd be doing in the next 6-7 months.
With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of adding this to the work programme, please show. Against. Thank you. Councillor Condacott.
Can I ask we actually leave a note for the next administration to consider this, though? Because I say I'm only voting against it for now, so obviously we can't tell the next administration what to do, but I think it needs to be sort of flagged that it might be something that does need looking at.
I don't think we can bind a future administration to any course of action, Councillor. with that, moving on to item 8, the forward plan, page 18 of your agenda. Any comments, questions, observations? Councillor Condacon, I've got you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. On here is the Civic Hall, which I think is down for February. Will we get an earlier update of how things have gone? Because obviously it is an area I'm concerned about, and yeah, because that's obviously going to Cabinet in February. Thank you, Chair.
As we've got portfolio here, Julio, are you able to comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm just a bit concerned about the amount of things that are on for the March one, to be honest. So I was wondering if we could perhaps bring something forward to a special meeting, maybe. Some of the things that I'd put forward, like the report for the independent living remodelling and the 196 to 198 Church Road. I think if we leave that till March, it's going to leave us no time to really look at anything and do things. I just think the March one is a bit too top heavy.
I'm quite happy to explore the possibility of alternative dates, see if we can split this up a little bit, but it will depend very much on timetable availability and members' availability, I think. Councillor Condacon.
One possibility would be to bring the changing places item forward from March to January, because I believe the contract for that has just been let and it went through as a delegated decision, so that might be something we could get told about earlier.
Something we can take into consideration, I think, Kelly. Meeting finished. Thank you.